Well, Rebecca, thank you so much for joining me here on the Entrepreneurial Success Podcast. Like I said, just before we hit the recording button, I am in love with the topic that we're going to talk about today. But before we dive into all of that, why don't I hand over to you so you can introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Oh, thank you. It's lovely to be here on a sunny afternoon. Yes, I'm Rebecca Newenham. I wear a few hats. So I founded Get Ahead. We're an outsourcing agency 14 years ago. So I've got now three young adult daughters. But when the youngest was starting school, that's when I had my itch and sort of need to find something for myself. So I set the business up then. I'm now also a franchise consultant, so we'll probably get into what I've done with Get Ahead, but I have franchised it and I'm now working with businesses that are interested in scaling through a franchise model. And I'm finding that fascinating because it's a real privilege to be part of someone's business journey and to really get under the skin of what their business is about. And then I'm also a business mentor. So I work primarily with women as their cheerleader, somebody who can help them look at their business and possibly scale it if that's what they want to do. But I think I've looked back recently and I've probably had 8 or 9 coaches or mentors over the last 14 years. And I often laugh and say I probably wouldn't be married or have any friends left if I hadn't had that coaching and support, because you can't do it all, can you? So
Yes.
I'm loving that. And yeah, I'm a mum of 3 girls. I just said my youngest is off to Leeds University on Saturday. So if I hear another person saying that Martin and I are going to be empty nesters, I think I'll run away because I see it very much. We've launched our birds out of the nest and now it's time for the next chapter.
I know. Well, that's always the good thing. It's, people I think are scared of change, but I think the change sometimes means how you look at it. It's
Oh,
about creating that excitement for
totally.
yourself about what that could be, what those possibilities could be. But tell us a little bit about how you got started. Obviously, you mentioned your 3 daughters, and you mentioned that when your youngest was there, you decided that you wanted to start something of your own. So tell us a little bit about that story. What was that
Yeah,
decision?
yeah.
Why did you decide to do something for yourself a little bit?
So I'd had a corporate career, and actually looking back now, it's fairly short because I graduated and then I probably worked for 6 or 7 years. And I was a retail buyer, so I worked for Superdrug and then for Sainsbury's, and then I took an 8 year career break. I took a year career break when I had our first daughter, and then got pregnant again. So the sort of the cycle carried on. So I committed to that. I wanted to have our girls close together. And I knew almost like that was my mummy time being at home. And I didn't resent that at all. I absolutely loved it because I knew I would have something following on from that. And I had a self-employed mother. My father was a head teacher and my mum ran what she called a tutorial agency. So she was matching children needing extra tuition with a bank of teachers, totally sort of relaxed over then. You'd go anywhere to have some sort of tutoring, but it enabled me to witness firsthand somebody that was flexible. She fitted it in around my brother and I growing up, and I loved that. So I'd seen it and I knew that that was a viable option. So my husband Martin and I talked a lot about, what did I want to do? And with my buying background, I was very passionate about creating something more than just me, branding it up, seeing where it could go. So I guess I was quite brave in many respects. There weren't many virtual assistants out there then, which again sparked my sort of entrepreneurial spirit around actually, let's see where this could go. So I used elements of my buying background, my confidence about getting to understand if there was a demand for what we were doing. And then how I interpreted that was by providing remote business and admin support and looking around the playground, seeing these wonderful women primarily that were having to sort of park their career in order to get flexibility, made me realize actually I could be that solution for them. So
Yes.
that's what we've done.
Amazing. And I love that story because, like I said, this is why I'm so excited about having this conversation with you, because not a lot of people think about some of the concepts like franchising, which is the one we're going to talk about today. So let's dive into this. Let's just kind of nitpick a little bit and dissect the word franchising. So,
Yeah.
in your terms, can you explain to us what franchising is and from your experience, how did you find franchising working for you?
Yes. So I, like a lot of people, was quite unsure of franchising. To me, it was the greedy franchise owner that, takes lots of cash from people and it doesn't necessarily mean a positive experience. And as I started sort of researching it, I recognized actually there are lots of businesses that are franchised that we might not even realize. Obviously, the
Yeah.
big being something like McDonald's, a lot of the sort of the larger food brands. But I sort of worked with a consultant who said, look, I really think in order for you to scale this business and to do it properly, you need to look at the franchising model. So the franchising model for me meant legally we would be operating a tight ship. We would be replicating our sort of ways of working in a very straightforward manner. Because up until I ran the business for 6 years, we had good traction across the UK where we were supporting busy business owners. But I realised quite quickly that I couldn't replicate me everywhere unless we did it in a more
Yes.
formal way. So
Yes.
that was the sort of how do we build traction? And it wasn't a cheap process to go down. You know, I worked with a franchise lawyer to really nail that agreement. And recently I've been working with a sales coach, and we've been sort of laughing about the word franchising because, like you quite rightly say, people aren't quite sure about it. And I possibly in the past led my marketing by going, join our franchise. And that can immediately, people can go, oh, I don't know if I like the sound of that. So actually, franchise for me now is the legalities by which I can offer an opportunity to run your own get ahead office in the UK. And
Yes.
franchising is ethical. You know, we're part of the British Franchise Association, and you have to be very open and showcase and share your information to make sure you get that accreditation. And I'm also a qualified franchise professional, so I've done my qualification with them as well, because being ethical, doing things the right way has always been at the fore of whatever I've done, but even more so within that franchising world, because people are putting a lot of trust in you to
Yeah.
invest in something, and you need to show before they even part with any money that you've got something for them to show, and that you've actually got something to add value. So lots of people will go, oh, well, why would I bother with a franchise? I can do it myself. So when I'm talking about the Get Ahead franchise opportunity, I'm always giving examples of the mistakes I've made. That's why what I'm giving, the toolkit I'm providing, comes from 14 years worth of experience and mistakes that I've
Exactly.
made. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that shows a lot of credibility, not just the experience, but also the qualifications you have, understanding the legalities of it, how a system like this works, how a business like this works. And this is where a lot of people can go, oh, I see it now, instead of
Yes.
just going, oh, this is just one of those things you buy into and
I
come
know,
what
like
may.
there's all pyramid schemes and everything
Oh
will
gosh, no, no,
come up
no.
underneath you, and it's like absolutely not. And it's for me as a franchise owner, it's not a quick win either. You know, I'm in this for the long term. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I would always shut the door a long time ago.
Yeah. No, definitely. I can see that. So tell me, from your experience, what are some of the benefits that people can think about having when they want to possibly run or try and create their own franchise as a business?
Yes. So if you were thinking, right, I'd like to franchise my business, it's a way of replicating what you've got, but you've got to bear in mind, have you got something that somebody would be interested in buying?
Yes.
That's and we in my franchise consultant hat, if we've got a business that comes to us that hasn't been working for say a year yet, it's like, well, great that you've got that mindset, but you need to have actual proof that you've got a concept that could be scaled, that can add value to somebody. I think
Yes.
that's a big thing. So are you making, you know, we always look into the financials, and I always go, oh, I can't bear a spreadsheet, but you know, you have to be able to see that money can be made from this, and that you've got something not necessarily unique, but something where there is a demand and that you can supply this and you're adding value. So if I look at Get Ahead, for example, somebody buying into us as a franchisee has immediate access to our pool of 80 freelancers. So that's not something they would be able to get hold of quickly themselves. So they already have a tick in the box. So it's about what value are you doing? What have you learned? Almost, you know, what ingredients are you bringing together to give somebody an opportunity to run something and replicate what you're offering somewhere else? And actually,
Yeah.
with me, we're regional, so my team get a dedicated postcoded area, so they know that they're not going to find another Get Ahead franchise down the road. But there are other franchises that operate just on the person, so there could be another person down the road because it doesn't need to be run in quite the same way. So there are lots of different ways of them operating.
Yes. And I guess one of the other benefits to you as well is what you mentioned earlier is when a franchisee buys into your business,
Yeah.
you, from your experience, can also mentor them along the way. So it's a little bit about you not just sitting back and go, yeah, here's all the tools, get on with it, see how you fare.
Yes. No, and that's really perceptive because that's absolutely what I do when I'm talking to prospect franchisees. I say, look, guys, I'm afraid you don't lose me. You don't pay me your money and then that's it. I'm very much, because the business is so special to
Yeah.
me and I've worked really hard to get where we have. I can't let it just go. I don't want some lone ranger coming in and just going off with it. So I have touch points like half an hour one-to-one every month with each individual franchisee. We have a team call. I'm available whenever the team need me, and that's consistently from the touch points from just reaching out to me in the first place through to launch and then beyond that. So Fiona's been with me for 6 years, for example, so we know each other very well. She's my franchisee from Leeds, York and Harrogate. If I wasn't receptive to, answering her messages and supporting her, I'm sure she wouldn't still be here. So it's
Yeah.
absolutely that. It's not a quick fix, quick win for either side. It's very much an investment, and you'll become part of. And I think it always sounds a bit creepy, cringy saying, the family, but you are part of that sort of working relationship. It's
Well,
a
yeah, it becomes a friendship, not just a working environment for everybody.
no,
It's that friendship,
absolutely.
that family. It makes
Yeah.
absolute sense.
I
And you want
mean,
that.
you want that exactly, and it's got to be a win-win for both of you. I get a
Yeah.
percentage of turnover as the franchise owner. My franchisees are making good margin every month, so it's working for them. And as long as they see that I'm adding value, and it's not just at the beginning, that's how it sort of becomes a bigger and better place to be. So for
Yeah.
me, I'm always making sure we're keeping up to date with new technology. We're adding new services. We're making sure that the resourcing pool of experts is kept up to date. And we, in the last year, to have gotten brand new websites, we've tweaked our branding, for example. So at the moment, we're making sure all the branding is updated and that the team have access to that, so they don't have to worry about that. That into them is being done behind the scenes by the head office. So we're keeping up to date, and that's really
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, exactly. Now, let's talk about this a little bit further because I know some people here in the audience might be listening to this and go, oh my gosh, this is really interesting. Maybe that is a way that I can scale my business.
Yes.
I can
Yes.
become a franchise owner. So let's talk about that entity first. For those who are listening to this and thinking about starting or creating their own franchise, what are some of the legalities or some of the key aspects that they need to think about? And I know you mentioned a couple already, but just to recap it, what are some of the legalities and the special things, the elements that they need to start thinking about before they make this decision and start going down that road?
Yeah, so they need to have a business that's financially viable. They need to be able to show that there's a demand for what they're offering. They need to make sure they've got web presence, branding, they've got an identity that could
Yes.
then get replicated. So trademark is a big one. And we say that right from the beginning, you need to own that trademark, whether it's the word or the logo, depending on what your business is called. But those are big ones to sort of tick off from the beginning. And I guess if you're thinking about doing this, I would just say start sort of collecting things and have that mindset of, I'm wanting to scale this. It's not just about me. So I, for example, with my rather sort of complicated surname, chose not to have a business based personally around me. So I had Get Ahead, your virtual assistant, which is now your virtual agency. So it's even thinking along those lines when you're starting out, how do you want to be known? And it's building a personal brand as well, but ultimately having that vision to have a business that can get scaled without you being in it.
Yes, yes. And I think this is the thing. It's about having all of those elements, or at least working with your business now with a long-term plan of
Vision.
going into a franchise and thinking about all of those things. But one of the things I think that scares a lot of people are the legalities. But I know that you mentioned that you worked with a lawyer, somebody
Absolutely,
specifically who specializes in franchises.
exactly it. Because
And
I've
I
had
think once you've got that support, you can do
Oh,
everything by the book.
yes. So I would say if you're thinking about it, check out the British Franchise Association website. They've got an amazing pool of resources on there. You'll see the types of businesses that have franchised, but they've also got lots of different resources. And I work for Ashton's Consulting, and we run webinars and we have lots of freebies to give out. And so I think once you enter that world of research for franchising, you'll find all sorts of material that will help and
Yeah.
inspire you. But you're absolutely right. I've had a number of prospect franchisees that have looked at our agreement and got a non-franchise lawyer to look at it. And of course, it's that without realizing it, there are fine-tuned, specific things about franchising that only a franchise lawyer know about. So you're totally
Yes.
right. It's chatting to them, and that's why the franchise agreement. And often we'll do a pilot with somebody, so you'll trial it. So with me, I had somebody within my team when I started saying that I was thinking of franchising. They said, "Oh, actually, I'd be really interested." And we encourage clients with my franchise consultant hat on to pilot using somebody that you already know. So you do it together, so you can learn
Yes.
together rather than sort of investing hugely in something and then you suddenly think, "Oh, hold on a minute, I need to tweak it a little bit."
Yes. And I think it's so important to kind of think about those things. And it brings me back down to anything that we as businesswomen do. You're not just going to jump,
No,
both feet into it and go, right, this is it. I'm doing a franchise. It's like, no, 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 no. This requires a bit of planning.
this is how I'm going to do it, and enjoy that process, but equally
Yes.
don't go down too many rabbit holes and end up doing unnecessary things. It's sort of doing that
Yeah.
top level research and just looking at what's available. As I said, there are a lot of sort of free resources out there to
Yeah.
guide you.
Exactly. And I like the fact that you mentioned the association, the British Association, because I think, you want something that is credible and reliable at the end of
Absolutely.
the day as
There
well.
are franchise shows. So, for example, we're exhibiting with my consultant's hat on at the beginning of October in Birmingham. So there are generally shows in Birmingham and London. So and that's what I did when I first started thinking about it. I went to one, listened to some of the talks, and just absorbed.
Yeah.
So that's always a good little tip.
Good way to start. Absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about those now who are here in the audience who's going, heck no, that is way too
Yes.
much for my brain to take in. I do
Yeah.
not want to start a franchise, but I like the idea of buying into a franchise.
Yes.
So let's talk about that entity a little bit. What is it that people can expect when they buy into a franchise? What is it that they need to look out for if they want to make that decision?
So it's having a good conversation with the franchisor, so that's me, the franchise owner, doing their research online. How does this brand show up? Are they consistent? Are the different franchisees, the existing ones, are they approachable? I always want prospect franchisees to talk to my existing team. So that's an open book, so they can choose who they want to speak to. If a franchise owner is very protective and isn't encouraging that, that's always a red flag for me. It's understanding some examples. So with ours, for example, we have a marketing plan every month. So I always show examples of that to prospects. I've written a book about the franchise, so I'm very open about how we work and the types of people we're looking for. So it's how readily open is the franchise owner for you to answer your questions, and also how do they approach things? Are they efficient? Do they show up on time? Do you book an appointment with them and they're there? Do they send you the information? All those little clues
Yes.
are really vital, because for me a prospect franchisee is really, really valuable, and I'm not going to change my behavior. My behavior then is continuously like that once they've signed up, but you need to feel comfortable and go with your sort of gut feeling.
Yes, absolutely. And I think the other thing that they need to look for is as well is what you mentioned. Number one, do they have a marketing strategy that you can tap into? What is their strategy look like overall as a business? But also, what are some of the templates that they've got going on? What is it that they're doing? Can you utilize it? Is it aligned with you? Because I know certain people work in a certain way because it's best for them. But if you start tapping into, if I can say, the cookie cutter experience,
Yes, no, no,
you
no,
might find that
no.
it doesn't always align with you. So from your experience, what is it that you would like to say to people about looking at the nitty gritty of a business? when
So
you're looking into buying that franchise?
So it's making sure you're asking questions for the information you want to see, and that you're actually
Yeah.
seeing examples of that and really understanding. So when you're questioning other franchisees, be really clear on what questions you're wanting answered. And I think a big one absolutely is that. So if someone's franchised their business, there has to be value in that toolkit that you're being given. So is this, are you continually being updated? Do certain trends get reflected? How's value added after you've bought it? And
Yes.
how relevant is the franchise owner to the continual success of the business? Or is it just, here we go, off you go, I don't want to know anything about it? So I think
Yeah,
it's being, and we all have to go with our gut feeling, don't we? I think about how
we
things are.
do.
But you need to have open conversations. And I remember once having somebody that was inquiring, and they weren't fussed about talking to any of my other franchise team, and that worried me, because I need everyone to work together and
Yeah.
feel part of a team. And if that clearly wasn't on point for this particular person, so we didn't take it any further. So it's having a
Yeah.
confidence to go with your feeling about people, and actually
Yeah.
meeting in person is a big plus. And I would say, we have to have, if you're investing, for me it's £8,000 to buy our franchise. If someone's willing to give over that level of investment, I would want them to meet me and me to meet them. And it's also a two-way thing. So we always say, as franchise consultants, you're awarding somebody a franchise, you're awarding them the opportunity to work with you. It's not the other way around, where you're sort of desperado for people to work with you. So
Yes.
it's
Yes.
it's a two-way street, definitely.
No, I like that. And I like the fact that you're sharing all these golden nuggets, because for somebody who's thinking or might have already been thinking about buying into a franchise, because you're already buying into a business that's already established, they've already got the brand, you can
Yeah,
literally just copy what it is that they're doing, use their marketing strategy. So it is kind of one of those things where people think, this is great, I really want to do this. But I love what you shared about making sure that it's aligned with you, having those conversations, meeting the other franchisees, having those conversations with them, make sure that it is aligned with you, and then most importantly, listen to your gut, because
yeah.
that's the thing that will always guide you and tell you if you're making the right decision or not.
Yeah, and showing up for things like, for us, LinkedIn is a really important platform. So I always encourage prospects to sort of check us out on there, see what we're doing, because that gives
Yes.
an immediate sense of what. But if someone's not posted something for a couple of months, and they're in that industry where you're meant to be supporting businesses doing just that, then that's always a bit of a red flag as well. So it's
Yeah,
just doing your research, being a detective in a positive way.
I know. Especially if you're going to invest in a business, you need to make sure
Absolutely.
that
Yeah.
you're doing your research
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Oh my gosh. I love this conversation, and I've got actually so many other questions going on in my mind, but I think for argument's sake, for the audience sake, because there's already so much that you shared here today, I wanted to say that you have also an amazing opportunity for people who are now possibly thinking about looking, investing in a franchise. Because some people, let's face it, I know some of the audiences are still full-time employed, and they're thinking, I want to move and do my own thing, but they don't know what. Or you have people that are already at that point now where they're thinking, you know what, this isn't working for me. I want something that is more established. And this is where you are offering opportunities for people to start looking at what it is that you're offering as a
Yeah.
franchisor. So tell us a little bit about that and what people can expect.
Yeah, so on our website, we've got two options. So my main one is, yes, running a Get Ahead regional office, so becoming a partner with us. So that's buying a dedicated postcoded territory, going networking, finding busy business owners, so SMEs that need that support. So we do all the training around that. So that's lovely. And you can run that alongside a corporate role, because clearly to start making margin isn't an overnight success, but this is something that is proven, that works, and has enabled all my team to get the flexibility that they crave and also deserve. And we have those pool of experts that the franchisees, the partners, tap into, so they're not restricted to doing the client delivery. They find the clients that need the support, match them then using our skills database, which is a ginormous database full of all our experts and their skills, and they match them. So then they're building virtual teams for clients. So it's super rewarding, but it can be done alongside another job that you may then scale down over time. So I love
Yes.
the concept, and a number of my team are doing that. And then we've also got opportunities for, we call them virtual experts, but for freelancers that are maybe wanting a community to be part of. And we all know that business development can be quite a tricky one. Sometimes we can sometimes find it hard to sell ourselves. So understanding that they can be part of a community where my partners are saying, right, I've got this opportunity, would you like to work on this, is always quite rewarding as well. So on our website, we've got both those options on there. So.
Amazing. Oh, and thank you so much for sharing that. So for those of you listening or watching this video, if anything that Rebecca said is just had sparks going off and you're really interested and you feel all giddy and excited about the concept, my suggestion is to go down to the show notes where the links will be for having a look at those opportunities that Rebecca just spoken about. So have a look at it. And then also in addition, if you feel you've got any other questions, if you feel like there's still a couple of things that is you're uncertain of that you might want to talk to Rebecca about, I will put her social media details, including LinkedIn, and also her website in the show notes. And I'm sure if somebody reaches out to you, Rebecca, and they would like to ask you more questions, you'd be more than happy to chat with them through it all. Because I think this is the thing, you know, we need to, if something spurs you on, if something excites you, just like we spoke about here, the idea of buying into a franchise or starting your own franchise, if any of those ideas sparked something in you, get in touch with Rebecca, have that conversation, even if it's just to pick a brain. You never know where it's going to take
I
you.
love it. I love it. I love any conversation. So yeah, find me on LinkedIn especially, and yeah, we can take it from there.
Yes. Oh my gosh. No, I love this. And I love the fact that you shared so much. Like I said, there's so many golden nuggets that you shared here today. And I think anybody who's listening to this and just have this moment, what I call that aha moment, maybe the one moment that they've been looking for, and you've delivered it today.
Yeah. Love it. Oh, well, thank you very much for having me on. I love the
Oh, no, appreciate it. Thank you so much, Rebecca. And we'll be in touch very soon.